house belonged to my grandmother, Elizabeth Mary Evans. The house is a part of the farm, a 70-acre farm called Penrhiwbeili. I had to go there when I was little to stay at holiday time for a few days, because it was my father's home as well, although he didn't live there at the time. But I can remember going there because it was, I really didn't like it, you know, because I came from quite a big house with electricity and water and phone, and going up there, the house was dark, no electricity, no telephone, no water. We have to get the water from the well. So it was a big change for a little child, quite daunting. The house was at the bottom of the yard. It was a steep yard going up to the farm buildings, which were at the top of the steep climb sort of thing. My grandmother and Elsa had cows which they milked by hand, sitting on a low little stool, three-legged stool. But they had chickens, and they had two horses, one called Puss and one called Piebald, which was a piebald pony. And so I presume the milk was taken out by horse and cart to the stand at the end of the road. And I do remember a person working there helping, which was called Francis. They had 70 acres. I presume they got help to keep the fields, the hay time and things. Well, there were two shops, local shops, Talog, which was a mile away, and Penrhiwbeili, which was a mile away. And I know that Elsa, my auntie, walked to there were two local shops, two in Penrhiwbeili and one in Talog. And they used to go either way to buy bread, I presume, and anything had butter and jam, marmalade. This would have been the parlour. The geggin, they're called, which is the kitchen, was quite large because there was quite a lot of furniture in it. This fireplace on either side was the skew, which is the settle, and that's where they kept well, you'd sit there in front of the fire, and also where they kept the bedclothes. And on this side there was a food cupboard, but it wasn't up against the wall, it was sort of back to the fire, so that it made this part quite cosy. There was also the organ was in the kitchen, which my grandfather played, and then a large cell, which I have in my house today, a lot bigger than this one here, but it wasn't so nice because it was an old farmhouse one. Then there was this table at the back with 4 rooms on either side, and then there was a chest of drawers, and that cricket table over there was there as well. So in the parlour there was a bed, which I had to sleep in, and I was petrified because I had to go to bed by candlelight with shadows on the walls. And there was a corner cupboard, which is in the other room there. I think it's an 18-pane one, which is quite unusual really. And also chest of drawers, and a chiffonnier. Well, in front of the fire was cosy because they burnt pele, was a mixture of clay and gloman, which is in the dictionary it's little coal. It's more than dust, but they were bigger than dust. But it was pounded together with a pounder, and then they mixed with water, and then they would make like donut shapes out of this pele, and left it to dry, and it did give off a good heat. Well, it was very uncomfortable in lots of places. I never went upstairs because I was petrified of the dark. But yeah, this bed where I slept in was in the parlour, and with the shadows on the walls wasn't very comfortable. Where I lived on the farm, we had lots of people for a start, because my other grandmother had 6 boys. And then, because we had telephone there and electricity and water, which in Penrhiwbeili we had to get it from the well, which was down the bottom of a side road. Well, my grandmother and Elsa were both happy living in that house, because Elsa didn't want to move from there, but she was forced to move because the roof got a bit unsteady. But I presume, I never knew my grandfather, but I presume because he went to live there from the smithy up at Penrhiwbeili. So I presume that they were happy there, you know. Cowl. It was all cowl. I honestly don't remember my grandmother or Elsa cooking anything ever, but then I was only there for a few days. But she used to make cowl. And on the first thing that hit you when you went into the kitchen was the big fire, with the cauldron hanging over the fire on a chain, and that's where she made the cowl, which consisted of dandelion leaves and nettles, and then a few things from the garden which Elsa would bring. But the garden was quite far away from the house, so and that was the staple diet. I think she thickened it with some porridge. And then we had the cowl in bowls, and we ate with wooden spoons. And Elsa she was very, very into flowers and herbs and things like that. And she used to grow lots of things and plant daffodils all over the place. But also outside the house there was just a little flower bed. Smoky. I don't remember any wallpaper or paint there. I know the door, she kept the door, creosoted the door to keep it black and to preserve it. The floor was these blue flagstones, big ones, very rough and cold on the feet, yes.
Harried in Venus, mae'n harried in Bain, mae'n harried in Dylysaf na Blw.